I have not done a SkyTrain video in a while. Let's do one. The Expo Line and Evergreen Extension recently celebrated their 36th and 5th year of operation respectively at the time of upload. Oftentimes, trains are built to replace the top performing bus routes, such as now with the Broadway Extension looking to replace the eastern section of the 99B line. So that begs the question, which bus services did each of the SkyTrain lines replace? If you're new, please consider subscribing to the channel and follow the link to the channel's Instagram in the description. Before we begin, we're only going to be covering the primary bus route that was eliminated for each expansion of the SkyTrain network. So, minor cases like the 143 and 160 will not be talked about. However, there are a few cases where the SkyTrain assumed the role of entire networks of bus routes, which we will also discuss. Then, we will wrap up each line by glazing over how the resources from each route were reinvested into other improvements. Let's begin with the Evergreen Extension, or line, whatever you want to call it, which takes the Millennium Line into Coquitlam via Port Moody. Doing this route until 2016 was the 97B line. Having started service in 2002, this B line took an ironically slower route from Lougheed Station up North Road through St. John Street in Port Moody and to Coquitlam Station by weaving through Eagle Ridge. This bus was so slow that 151 Como Lake and 152 via Austin would complete the journey from SkyTrain to Coquitlam Station a few minutes faster every time. That said, however, the 97 did what the other routes did not: service major hubs along the way, and that reflects in its ridership before it retired. 3.2 million boardings in 2016, the 21st busiest route in the entire network. When the 97B line retired, the equipment and hours would be reinvested into the 95B line, bringing B line service to the Hastings Street corridor. Now moving on with the Millennium Line, did you know that the 99B line went all the way to Lougheed Station? That's how it was from 1996, from when it first started, until 2002, when the line from Commercial Broadway to Lougheed Station opened up. Now, we don't have any ridership numbers, as this was almost 20 years ago, so I apologize for those trying to put it into context. Now at the beginning, we said that SkyTrain often replaces entire networks of bus routes to impact ridership. What if I told you that the 151 and 152 routes from earlier also went to Vancouver? Long before the Millennium Line was built, you either had to take a bus straight to Vancouver or take a slower route known as the 147 to New Westminster and continue west from there. When the Millennium Line opened, most resources from the 99 and 147 were moved to create the 97B line, providing frequent service between hubs on the North Road Barnett Highway corridor. The Millennium Line really helped consolidate bus service in Burnaby, New West, and Vancouver, and help reorganize the routes to help build frequent corridors. Now let's move to Canada Line. The bus that was replaced was the once famous 98B line. This bus route was the backbone of public transit between the neighboring cities. The exact ridership from 2009, from when the line closed for operations, could not be found. So if someone finds it, please let me know in the comment section. That said, I estimate it to be at least in the top 5 boardings for 2009. One of the things that made the 98B line special was a dedicated busway down a section of number 3 road, something we don't see much of these days, even with Rapid Bus. Although, it could make a return for the Scott Road Rapid Bus project. Link in the description if you have not seen that video yet. When the 98 was retired, the buses and driver hours almost made their way to Surrey to start a B line from Surrey Central to White Rock via Newton Exchange. However, there was a funding shortfall just before implementation, and the resources were spread out instead to other routes, such as making the 49 an articulated bus route. Now we cannot go on without talking about the 424. The 424 was a simple bus route which connected the airport with Airport Station. Now fun fact, this was originally part of Route 100 along Marine Drive to 22nd Street, but it was split off in October 2001. And like the Millennium Line, as it replaced regional buses along Lougheed Highway, the Canada Line also had an impact on regional bus services. In September 2009, Bridgeport Station replaced Burrard Station as the terminus for express buses coming in from White Rock and South Delta. In addition, all Richmond area peak hour runs, such as the 488 Garden City and 496 Railway, would be deleted, and the resources were used to boost frequency on local services in Richmond. Airport Station closed in 2009, the same year the Canada Line opened, and its responsibilities would shift to Bridgeport Station as discussed earlier. Also, there is no off-peak bus connection across the Oak Street Bridge, as the 480 is suspended at the time of filming. We have yet to see what the new trains commissioned in early 2020 will bring to the busy corridor, thanks to the ongoing global health crisis. The Canada Line continues to be one of the busiest transit lines in the region, supplemented by remaining frequent bus services on Number 3 Road. Last but not least, we have our Kickstarter, the Expo Line. What bus route did it replace, you might ask? Well, straight up, at least a dozen, and a bulk of these were runs from Surrey heading into downtown being truncated at New West. Now, did you know that the big three of Surrey routes, 319 Scott Road, 320 along 104th, and 321 King George all went downtown at one point, and even routes like the 312 112th Street, 314 Sunbury, and 316 116th Street all headed to Vancouver at one point since being introduced in 1975. In addition, buses like 323 128th Street and 324 132nd Street also had trips going into Vancouver via the Portman Bridge. You see, the bus integration with Expo Line did not just happen over the course of a couple weeks, rather a few months, even years, as people started to adjust to having fast rail transit once again. In fact, by the mid-1990s, all buses heading across the Portman Bridge were replaced by SkyTrain connections. Scott Road Station served as the terminus for some of these major routes, but it had long been the intention to make Wally Exchange, which is today's Surrey Central, as the main transit hub in Surrey. And it wasn't until 2012 where we've seen enough growth in the east to warrant a return of bus service on the Portman Bridge. But as a whole, transit in Surrey was greatly influenced by two events in the 1990s: the opening of the Alex Fraser Bridge and the extension of SkyTrain into Surrey Central. In these major post-SkyTrain bus changes, we see that there are a few common themes: consolidation and the development of frequent corridors. The general end goal of these features is to have the least amount of different buses running on these corridors as frequently as possible, and that is most evident in the Frequent Transit Corridor, or the FTN. Basically what this is a map of corridors where there is a transit service coming at least 4 times an hour for most of the day. As we said in the beginning of the video, oftentimes it is the busiest bus routes being replaced by rail. So let this not just be a historical lesson, but rather a sign that hopefully you might get more than 2 buses an hour at your place. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.